So I am Sean. I work at Screencastify, and I've been working with JCPS for a while now. We did one of these sessions, I believe, back in November, and I think we did another one at some point, but honestly, it was just so long ago, I am not sure. Today's session is about videos for personalized learning. We will cover a lot within this session today, but a quick brief bio on my part. I'm Sean, as I mentioned. My job at Screencastify is to support our largest 90 partners in the United States. JCPS is really one of like the largest four that we support, along with Los Angeles, Cincinnati, Denver, San Diego, San Francisco. Those are all kind of my responsibility. Prior to coming to Screencastify, I was a high school teacher, department chair, and assistant principal for about 12 years. And a large percentage of my latter years was spent in blended learning, going back to 2014, 15, 16, well before video was as readily accessible as it is now. Also, coincidentally, that 2016 timeframe is also when Screencastify started. Our initial intention has always been to be an in-person learning tool to hopefully make your day easier. Now, I saw from the heart, it looks like we have some people that have used Screencastify before, which is great. If you are in that category of like, I'm not sure what Screencastify is, or maybe you've only made one or two videos, that is also completely fine. The session today should give all of the people, regardless of your skill and familiarity with Screencastify, a really solid breakdown. But most importantly, my goal is for you to walk away with tangible things that you can go execute on today and tomorrow. One of my biggest personal frustrations of attending PD sessions was whenever it was like a 30,000 foot philosophical conversation for an hour, but I didn't walk away with anything like tangible and real that I could go try to do that same day or the next day. So that very much kind of informs how I like and want these sessions to go. Hence me encouraging all of you, if you have questions, to please just come off mute and ask. That is the number one priority. So we've got three main goals today. The first is, how do we create video? And maybe more specifically, how do we effectively create video? We know that 2020 was what it was. Video was more of like a necessity of just kind of replacing some of the things that we were doing. 21, things changed. This year and beyond, things are continuing to change by being influenced by the last 2 years, but really in many positive ways going back to pre-2020. And that's kind of the lens that we try to take when we give sessions like this. We want this to be in-person learning. What are you trying to do in the classroom, and how can Screencastify make that easier, replicate and amplify your voice, and save you time? So how do our students benefit from being able to access content? Part of what you might hear me say during the session today is the power of pause and the value of video. Those are two phrases that we will throw around often at Screencastify. But I'd love to hear just from your perspective, when you think about student and how they access their learning and the information that you have within your classroom, how do they benefit if that information is available all the time? Feel free to come off mute. Feel free to drop it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Go ahead and let me know. I'll give it a little bit and see what we can come up with. Thank you. We just had a comment dropped in the chat, and is it, I'm assuming Miss Wilder, as hence Wilder's Kindercat team? Nod or thumbs up.
Yeah, we're the kindergarten teachers at Wilder, so.
Oh, okay. Wilder is the school. Apologies. Well, no, thank you for the comment. and I think that at its core, that is really what we want teachers to be able to streamline and make more of an efficient, easy process. Is that when I often make the joke, I was a high school history teacher. We used to take notes a lot. And what does taking notes mean? How many times did my 30 students leave the classroom with 30 different variations of what I was talking about? And that is generally when we consider making a video or instructional content of some sort, when students are able to access that at their convenience, but even more specifically, they can change the playback speed. When you get up into the upper high school, maybe they want to listen on a 1.5 playback speed, or they want to slow it down. We have students that want to slow it down. if they can pause it and rewind it, if they want to fast forward through things that they've already learned and feel really confident about. I think that in a way, their review capacity is something that we really want to think about and focus to. It can be good for students that miss work due to illness. Thank you, Joni. I totally agree. In addition to the illness piece, how many times do you get pulled from a component of your day to attend an IEP meeting, or like a segment of your day is missed? And then is that throwing off the schedules, whether it's you and your team, or if you are a middle, junior high, or high school teacher and you've got multiple sections and now one section is a day off? How can Screencastify help mitigate some of those scheduling challenges, but also the students that are out sick? They have the same access to content, and that's really important. And then Gina, I agree. The repetition of being able to rewatch things, thinking about adult learners, we all know how important it is. I generally don't learn things the first time I hear them. And why would students be any different? So all of those are really solid answers to students being able to access that content every time. We will get into more of a specific like demonstration, and I'll kind of walk you through some tips and tricks, but this is just the general layout of Screencastify. We make recording easy for teachers to have learning on demand, but then also utilize video within the actual teaching and learning of their school day. You can create a video in 3 clicks. All of these are customizable options that for those of you that have used Screencastify before, you're able to turn your webcam on and off. You can turn your microphone on and off, along with recording specific components of your screen. And it's always good, I think, to see what a great example is before we continue. So if you would, we're going to take a couple minutes. You can either scan the QR code with your phone, or copying and pasting the link itself is probably the best process, because then that'll put it on your web browser. So if you just want to type in bit.ly/sample video 2022, that's going to take you to my colleague Olivia, who is going to demonstrate what I would consider to be like a really first-class example of how to utilize most of the components, features of Screencastify. So let's take 3 minutes. I'll set a quick timer, and we will go through and let you watch this example from Olivia. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes, and we will come back at 8:12. 9:12. Sorry, I'm Central Time. 9:12. We don't want to rewind your day an hour, I promise. So let's take 3 minutes and we'll come back together. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I will respond as we kind of break out into different components throughout this hour. We'll give it like one more minute just because I know that link was not sent out. So about 60 more seconds. Okay, if you could either pause and or stop the video at whatever part you're on. I think even watching a component of that, you can kind of get a pretty good sample of what Olivia is trying to accomplish. So would love to just dig in terms of some feedback and thoughts. As you watched Olivia's example, what were some components of her actual teaching that jumped out to you? Especially those folks that have used Screencastify before. Anything that she did that you particularly liked, or that maybe just you noticed more so than something else? And again, feel free to come off mute or just drop it in the chat. But what from her video stuck out to you? Thanks, Joni. The interactive questions is something that we will definitely dig into a bit later. If you've not yet used those, it is a feature that happens directly after you record a video. You have the capacity and the ability to add multiple choice and true false questions currently, but glad to hear that you thought that was a nice addition. We will make sure we talk about that here in just a bit. Like that she paused throughout the video for students to process. Yeah, I agree. One of the best parts I think of her video is that she still tries to like model, and she still tries to take what we know are good teaching practices that you would execute in a classroom and then transfer those over to a video setting. Now, we all know that it's not going to be the exact same, and that there's going to be things that fall off a little bit because it is being done via video. But when she pauses and stops, and then students have that time to actually think, as opposed to even saying, pause the video now, the student can manually do it. But then that does have the student do one more thing, as opposed to you putting in a title slide within the editor and then making that title slide 30 seconds long or 45 seconds long. And then it's built in, so there is even no pause and play. But one item that Olivia really is strong with is that she's trying to bring the modeling. She shows you the example. She uses her hands, as opposed to just recording your screen and then giving a voiceover, which does have its place, but we want this to be authentic. Part of where Screencastify wants to just continually encourage teachers is that we know students benefit from relationships. Trying to execute that in a video can be tough, but if they see your face and if they see your facial expressions and some emotion within that video, that matters. And that does elevate the way in which video can resonate with students. So that's super important. Let's keep moving. So there are two main components to an effective instructional video. The first one is signaling. It's super clear to your viewer what is most important. And the second one is segmenting, one thing at a time. When you're doing video, it's really important to think about when, like almost like if you're putting a piece of furniture together and you're reading directions, it kind of needs to be segmented in that manner, where you're doing this, then you're doing this, then you're doing this. You can be very, very dynamic when you're in person with students, and you can multitask and do multiple things at once. It's hard for the viewer to actually execute that on their own via video. So signaling and segmenting are the two most important components. Now, with Screencastify, how do we signal? There are multiple feature sets within our toolbar that allow you to do that, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. You can emphasize mouse clicks, add fireworks, draw shapes, add emojis, and then use the pen tool. So for those people that have used Screencastify, this might look familiar. Those that have not, you may not have seen this. So I'm just going to go to your website. And if I was doing a tutorial, say I worked in like the registrar's office, or if I was a person who was consistently answering questions from parents about how to register, how to sign up for something. Same thing for you. How often do you get the same questions from students? How do I log into this? What's my password? where do I go? Or a parent or adult emails you with similar style questions. This is a very good example, I think, of how to find content and then make it available so that it does minimize the number of questions that you have to answer. So thinking to the registrar example, I'm going to click on my Screencastify extension. What do I want to do? I want them to see my face. We just talked about the relationship component. So I'm going to toggle on my webcam. Now you can see this audio bar moving. That's a good thing. And I encourage you that every time before you make a recording to just make sure that that green is moving up and down as you talk. You can just do test, test, test. That way, you know there's going to be audio recorded in your video. Sometimes if we don't see that moving, you might go do a video, you get to the end and then there's silence because there was some issue, which is always a super bummer. And we don't ever want that to be wasted because then you wasted time. So just take a look here, and then your FaceTime camera would be on your laptop if you have a MacBook, or whatever else options you have. If you have like an external actual camera, you would just select that from the dropdown. And then what do I want to actually record? I want my whole desktop because I might be navigating from different pages. If I know I just am going to record a single browser tab, which in this case, I'm just not for example's sake, but if you know you are, select browser tab, or I just do webcam only. This might be if a teacher is using this for announcements purposes and they just want to have their face out there. Or if a world language teacher or an ASL teacher, or if someone is doing something where they just want to see the face so they can see the mouth moving, just selecting your webcam is a good strategy for that. But we're going to select desktop and I'll click record. Excuse me. Most people will not have an external monitor, so you wouldn't have to worry about that, but I do. So now we're recording. So this is where I would then go through and actually look at what my goal is. I'm going to select rectangle, and then just off the top of my head, maybe it is under parents. So I'm going to want you to select parents. And then once you get to parents, you're going to go here. Don't go here. And then if my students did a great job, I'm going to go to fireworks and we're going to say, yay, like you did wonderful. This is feedback. I'm telling you why you did such a good job. I'm going to go back to my classic mouse. I'm going to save, or if I want to erase something, I can do that. All of these items are able for you all to really ensure that your students are looking at the right thing at the right time. And then I'm going to stop my video. What questions do we have about the signaling components within Screencastify Record on the toolbar? So anytime you want to emphasize where they should look or what they should click, Screencastify Record and those items within the toolbar are a really good way to do that. Now let's do it together. We just went through and I showed you some examples, and we'll do the same thing here. Imagine you're a social studies teacher and you want to make a video describing some of our rights that are granted in the Bill of Rights. If we wanted to make a video where signaling was wanting to draw our students' attention to help them retain it. Now we just went through and did this example, but I'm just going to kind of, just for time purposes, because we're already at 20, kind of talk over how I would do this from a Bill of Rights perspective. I would put a rectangular box over Bill of Rights because that's what it is. I would underline the first 10 amendments, and then maybe I circle all the numbers 1 through 10. Or if I wanted to really make sure my students know what the 10th Amendment was, powers kept by the state of the people, I could draw an arrow here and then circle it. You remember, segmenting one thing at a time and signal how it is that your students are looking at this. The alternative is that we're just looking at this image and I'm just giving a voiceover. For my student being a viewer, that's not going to always be super effective because they're just looking at this image and don't really know what to extract. By you utilizing the pen tool, the rectangle, and those markings, you're going to help them be able to do that. But we're going to actually give you a turn to try and create a video with this signaling and segmenting in mind. So you can use a Google Sheets presentation that you've used before. You can use an image. This is just practice. So feel free to go to this bit.ly, which I will also drop in. There's just a handful of infographics from a variety of topics that you can choose. Main goal, just try it. Try using the pen tool, try erasing stuff, try using a sticker, try using the fireworks. Personally, I remember when I first started using Screencastify, one of the biggest challenges was figuring out the click pattern when I changed my mouse to something different and then going back to my classic mouse, because you have to click save. So if you're in the middle of a recording, like you want it to look good, but you don't want to get screwed up in the click pattern. So I dropped the bit.ly for try Screencastify in the chat. I'm going to come to the slideshow, and then we will give you 6 minutes to just try marking up one of those infographics or anything else that you actually have on your screen. Any questions before we get started? All right. Well, drop them in the chat if something comes up. We will start the clock and we'll come back together in 6 minutes. We have about 30 more seconds, everyone. That siren gets me every time. Would love for folks to think about those last 6 minutes and kind of hopefully you were able to play around with each of those items actually on the toolbar. When you are creating lessons, especially instructional videos and or tutorials for other adults and staff members, utilizing those marking up options can be a really strong indicator of where people should go. And even if you're not in the classroom, if you are a person that is answering help desk tickets or troubleshooting options, Screencastify can be a really strong support system for those as well. Because we're already at halfway and I want to make sure we have some time at the end for Q&A, I am going to pick up the pace just a bit. So moving forward, the editor is something within Screencastify that JCPS has access to at a district-wide level. And once you've made your initial video, you can then do really a lot of things within the Screencastify editor, but there are multiple paths in order to be able to do that. So you can make videos even more engaging by adding text, zooming in and out, cropping and trimming, and then blurring out sensitive information along with adding title clips. And this is just a sampling of the features that we have available. I will make sure I send this presentation to Don Bacon, who I know can share it out with all of you, because within here, all of these are active hyperlinks. And when you click on these hyperlinks, if you ever ask yourself like, well, how do I add text to a clip? Go to the link and click on it. And then this will give you a step-by-step specific tutorial along with a GIF that walks through that process. It will show you how to change your text attributes, what each of these options mean. It is a deep dive into that one specific feature. And that exists for each of these that are on this link. Zoom into a clip. How do you add a zoom effect? How do you edit it? Each layer of that process. So we make this as accessible as possible, because the nice part about the Screencastify editor is that it can be used for people that are extremely tech savvy, that you're making more professional and polished videos, but it is also extremely approachable. It is very simple, and the barrier to use for the first time is pretty low because of the way in which the features exist within the tool itself. And that's going to kind of be what we show right now. So for this, the editor is within Screencastify in two places. How can I retrieve an edited video or nearly finished video when Screencastify crashes? So good question. And there may be a couple different answers to this, which I'll talk about in just 1 second. So right after you make a video, there are two paths to getting to the editor. If I want to utilize the video I just made and then somehow edit that, which this was the example that we all just did together, I'm going to go up to this button right here and click Open in Editor. This will deposit my Screencastify video within the Screencastify editor. So now I see my clip that is in that toolbar. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can be more specific with the edits that I'm going to make. And I'm going to go up to the front. Asking ourselves again, what do we want to accomplish? Maybe I want to put a title slide at the beginning because I'm going to have a substitute because I got pulled into a meeting. So I'm going to go to Add Media and I'm going to click Title Slide. And then you'll see that a tile was deposited at the front of that video clip. So we had a comment before that when students are ill, this is a really good tool to help them get caught up. I agree. And then I would go to title and I would just put 221 and then I would put whatever subject it is. And then I would title the lesson. And then the student knows, and you do too, what this actually is so that they can then continue on with their learning. But maybe I want to use this for professional development or for an example that I'm going to share to my colleagues, and I'm using student work or student data or my grade book for that example. We can't share that out publicly, so we want to blur that stuff out. So I might click on my blur tool, and I'm going to go over that student's face that I don't want publicly shared. I'm going to modify that purple box, and then I'm going to go up here to intensity, and I'm going to put that at high. And you'll see that now we have no idea who's behind that box. I can put it low. Maybe we know now, right? So we want to make sure the intensity always reflects the way in which you do it. I would use this to be like especially if I was like a elementary teacher, using this as a reveal activity. Like if I was looking at images or pictures along with a book, you could put this at a somewhat decent intensity and then have them actually answer questions about what was behind that blurred image. Then a little bit later, you do another blur, but you make it less of an intensity and then less of an intensity, so that as they watch through and continue, the blur component actually becomes a learning tool, not just a privacy protection. A couple other components: make sure your clip is always highlighted in yellow. When it's in yellow, that's going to be when you're able to make those modifications. If I want to cut, you'll see how my little white option is there. At the beginning of your clips, how many times at home maybe, or when you're making a video, you're 3 minutes into a video and your dog starts barking, or you make a mistake and you say something like that you don't love that you want to get rid of. First of all, I would encourage you, don't ever start over. Like if you've done something for X amount of minutes, don't ever start over. Do something when you're recording like this so that you can very quickly scan through your video, see the visual image of yourself doing one of these. Then you can find out the part that you want to pull out and cut so that you don't have to start over. The editor makes time saving way easier because you can cut out those things that you don't love. There were times when I'd be making videos for my colleagues and my kids would run in the background. Like usually not the end of the world unless it's like they're doing something crazy and like hitting each other. And then I want to like cut that out of the video. So I would do that. I would find that section of me waving my arms and I'm going to select cut. Then I'm going to find the next time that I was waving my arms, because that would be after, and I'm going to select cut again. Now I have this clip in the middle and I'm just going to click delete. And now that clip is gone. So you can swap in and out. You can eliminate things. It is extremely simple to then just click undo. Like if you didn't mean to do that and you made a mistake, click undo and put it back. You can crop as well. One of the things about effective instructional videos is you want your students to focus on what matters most. They don't need to see like my open tabs and my favorites or like my bottom toolbar. So I would select the whole clip, which in this case, I have the first one before I chopped it. I'm going to modify that so that it's not showing any of my top or bottom, and I'm going to click done. And now this looks way cleaner than it did before, where it showed my whole top, my whole bottom. We want students to be able to focus on what matters most, and the less material and information that's there, the less distracting that it is. Coming back to the question, how can we retrieve edit video when Screencastify crashes, or it seems the more edits that I try to incorporate, the greater the chance that it crashes or does not allow me to finalize my edits. So this is something that it's a hard one to diagnose, and I'll share my email at the end. I'm not sure your first name just by the way in which the sign-in works, but if you want, I'll send you my email, and this will be available after the presentation, because with the crashing component, when you save your video, you should be able to access it at its most recently saved point and then just go back in. And so if I made these videos, which I just did, I would export and then go back to Screencastify. Now, I'm not sure what process the actual crashing is happening, but I would export this back to Screencastify right here. So I'm not sure what that means. Got it.
If you don't mind me talking, this every time that I do many edits, this is exactly where I try to export, and it says that there's an error and it won't let me do it. And I try to refresh the page and it won't let me do it, and everything I try. And so I finally close out and I go back to my videos, and none of my edits are saved. It starts back at the raw video.
Yeah, well, first of all, sorry that is happening. That's definitely what we don't want to see. But that's like, I don't hear that often about that being the stage in which the actual error happens. So what I'd love to do is set some time individual with you, because there are some times where there are like IT related components that actually can impact the exporting of a video. And if that's where you're hitting that error, we'll want to dig into that together if that's okay. But I'll happily share my email with you and we can set some time individually if that works. Awesome. So to kind of just tie in part of that question, if you do ever want to go back to a video, yeah, you're welcome. Any video that you export or have recorded when you click on the Screencastify extension is available in your My Video library. So for the folks that have seen this before, you probably know that this exists. If you haven't, every video that you ever make is in two places. unless you manually alter that. The first one is in Google Drive. There is always a backup within Google Drive under your Screencastify folder. The second spot is right here. Now they talk to each other. So if you delete a video from here, it will be deleted from Drive and vice versa. But all of them can be searched by newest, oldest, A to Z and Z to A. And so if I'm a teacher that makes a lot of videos, the organizational component of how you name them is really important. I encourage title of the lesson, your class, and date in some variation, because then at least you know you've got 3 searchable features to be able to try to find a video, especially if you made one a year ago. Because that's the other way in which we encourage people to utilize the Screencastify editor. The other way to access, we said this was access point 1. The second access point is on your extension, clicking here, and then going to the editor. I'm going to delete this stuff real quick because the Screencastify editor is also a standalone video editor. You can edit non-Screencastify clips for non-Screencastify projects with this editor. And that can happen a couple different ways, but you'll notice again, the second entry point, click on the extension, 3 lines, click on editor. Now I'm going to use my add media function. For the example that we just gave, if I have a video from a year ago, I might make a custom intro to my students for today. Hi, everyone. It's February 21st, 2023. I might call out some specific things for that class and then throw that into my editor. But then I want to go back and find a video that I made a year ago. The same way that you probably reuse Google Slides or PowerPoint presentations, videos should be no different. Get a good instructional video, make it unique, but yet make it specific so that you can utilize it in multiple components. Go to upload. And you can find MP4 videos that are not in Screencastify. So if you make a video on your phone, do something. If you're like a science teacher and you do an experiment at home, you can record it on your phone. If you're a math teacher and you find 90-degree angle examples out in the world or whatever, you make something on your phone, email it to yourself, you download it as an MOV file. I can select that file. In this case, it's an MP4, but MOVs are no different. And now this is a long one, so we'll see how long it's going to take to insert. But if I actually insert it and I drop it in here, it will process the video and put that clip, even though I did not use Screencastify to make it. So external videos, you can certainly edit within our editor. But then if I had a Screencastify one that was in my Google Drive from however long ago, I'll give this about 3 more seconds. Awesome. So it worked. So then this now clip is a MP4 file. I can go to add media, click on drive, click on Screencastify, and then I can select any video. So this is where back to our naming suggestion. If I utilize the date, the class, and the topic, if I had a video on the Gilded Age, which I don't, but if I did, I would type in Gilded Age, and then it would show me the video, which I would then select. And I would drop that video in because now I have my custom example of greeting my students. And then I have my recycled instructional video that I know is really good content that I made a year ago. So now it's a time saver. Also thinking about your peers. If they send you a watch link, you can utilize their videos too by making a quick copy in the editor and then making it custom for you and your students. So the editor has a ton of options and a ton of ways for you to save time. It's just, I think so often, like you all have so much to worry about and think about that, like you don't have time to dig into like, how does this work? Or like, how can I do this? And it's totally understandable. So hopefully you're at least taking a couple things out that will save you time. One of which is, especially if your peers or colleagues have videos that is a 3-minute video, have them send you the link, download it, throw it in the editor, export your own copy, title it your own thing, and then you can share that out along with the custom intro that you made. So I get a little tab crazy when I do these. So we'll come back to again, and then again, just be mindful of time, knowing that we are at 8:42. For editing purposes, you want to add text in your browser-based editor and then zoom in. We kind of already showed that. But breaking up content is a really good way that our editor can be helping, especially with younger students. If you have a 7-minute long video, sitting and watching 7 minutes of straight content sometimes is okay. Sometimes it can be kind of tough. That title slide option, cut your clip and put a title slide in the middle. If it's like where they're doing a longer lesson, have them stand up, have them jump around, have them answer a question, have them ask a peer. You can do built-in activities and then elongate those title slides for specific amounts of time when using those videos, especially in person with your students. And it gives them time to think and work. And this is kind of what we just talked about. So let's take, I'm going to shorten this just again for time's sake. Let's take a couple minutes. Let's shoot for probably 3 of the 6 minutes. And our goal, either record a video and open the editor and see what you can do, or go to your extension here and just open the editor. Like that's the goal, especially for those folks that have not done it before. Click on the extension, 3 lines, open your editor. If you have an MOV or MP4 file on your computer, throw it in the editor and see what you can do. But again, I want to make sure we get to submit and then questions. So I'm going to shorten this to 3 minutes. So let's start now and then drop questions that you have in the chat box. And then we'll come back together when this shows us 3. About 1 more minute. All right, we will call it time here. Hopefully that was at least getting you into the editor for the people that have not done that before. What we know is that there is a pretty big drop off between people that make videos and then people that edit videos. The biggest 3 reasons is that people don't know where the editor is or how to get there. They've never come across a part of their teaching or learning that they need to use the editor. Or 3, it's like, you just don't know how. So ideally, we at least touch on a couple of those barriers as to how the editor could both be accessed, but then also utilized within your normal teaching practice. It's not meant to be like really robust. It's not meant to be complicated. It's about strategic and easy edits to make the video that much better. But again, for time's sake, we are going to keep moving. There are ways in which sharing the video can be much easier, along with making it more accessible to more people. On our video management page, there are several options. The QR code, you can put it right in an email, or you can copy the watch page link. So at this point, I'm going to kind of abandon our presentation slides for now, because I want to make sure we touch on a few really kind of high priority topics. I'm going to use this example video that we just made together and walk you through a few parts on this right toolbar here. If I want to share my video, if I'm in class and I'm going to have my students do any type of station rotation component, maybe I'm at home one night and I make a 1 minute video, a 1 minute video, a 1 minute video, and I make 6 of them. What I might do is I might click on the generate the QR code. I might copy and paste the QR codes into a Word file and print them. And then I might put them around the room, especially if my high school students have phones and then they walk around and they're watching the videos on their phones. If you're not able to use phones, or if they're younger grades, another option is that you can actually set up, if you have additional devices in your classroom, you can set up 6 devices, for example, in small groups, and then the video is already up absent the QR code. Or if students have their own device and you're going to be watching it that way. There's ways in which the QR code example can be utilized if they have the ability to scan it. If they don't, probably not the best option, in which case you can go a couple different routes. You can click on your copy share page link, and you can put your hyperlink anywhere. You can put it in an email, you can put it in Google Classroom, in Schoology, whatever LMS you personally use, or anywhere that students can click on a link. That easy access point can be utilized in class and at home. And the really cool part about utilizing the copy share page link is that you're going to know who watches the video and when. So when I click on show share settings, it's going to pull up this drop down, and I'm going to click edit. Who can access this video? Anyone with the link, and by email address. And I'm going to click save. And I'm going to drop this link into our chat. If you wouldn't mind, just maybe 1 or 2 people, if you could just click on that link for me. If I am a 4th grade teacher and I make a video at home on Tuesday night, and I'm going to start my class off on Wednesday with a 4-minute long video. My kids get in the classroom, they sit down, they pull their Chromebooks out, we take attendance, we do our thing. Watch this 4-minute long video. That's going to be how we start class. Great. I want all of my 29 kids to watch that video before we move on. But how do I know that they've actually done that? This is how. When you are sharing a link with your students, you'll see that number change from 0 to 1. And at the end of 4 minutes, or in this case, maybe 5 minutes, I'm going to refresh. And if that number does not hit 24, now in this case, it shows that I've watched this video from February 21st 1 time. At the end of those minutes, I should click refresh and I should see 29 names with 29 emails that on that day have watched that video. If I don't see that, we know that not every student has watched it. Was the link broken? Was their Chromebooks not charged? Are they not focused? There could be a lot of reasons here. But the analytics is a very powerful tool, both for knowing if students are watching and when, if you're sending individualized students to or videos to students for accountability purposes. Ms. Smith, your student watched a video 20 times. That's wonderful. Ms. Smith, your student didn't watch the video any times. That's a different conversation. If you are sending videos home to parents, you can change the share setting and you can select by nickname, because all parents might not have a Google email. That's totally fine. If you are a building assistant principal, or if you're a tech coach, or if you want videos sent out to staff and you want to know who's watching them, keep it on email address, and then staff will be able to see that. I was an assistant principal. I wish I could have sent video recaps as opposed to the emails on Friday afternoon that I know nobody was reading. There's different ways in which we can make sure that this is used in classrooms to help people save time. I'll pause there. Any questions on analytics? Because I know I've kind of started to speed up the pace a significant amount. Okay, so a couple people had made comments about the interactive questions. When you make your video, if you scroll down, you'll see a few different things. You'll probably see interactive questions and add exit poll. Captions is currently in beta. That's going to be something that we're rolling out where it will auto-generate captions for you to then be able to modify by time segment. And it's extremely simple and it's doing it for you. That will then be followed eventually by language translation, where we're going to start with the top 13 most common popular languages. And then you would then be able to put drop down and then it would auto translate. That's a little bit further out, but the captions are coming soon. For questions, I'm going to select interactive questions. I'm going to go to whatever segment of the video I want to drop in a question. And I'm just going to pick add question. I'm going to type my question there, and then I'm going to put my answers in. And then whichever answer is right, I'm just going to click the check mark. And that's the right answer. I click save. And just like that, I've now added a multiple choice question into my video here. So what do I want to accomplish by this? Do I want it to just be accountability? Do I want to make sure that students watch the whole video? Analytics, it will track an analytic as soon as a student watches 1 second of a video. So teachers will usually layer on questions to make sure that students are watching the whole video. So maybe I'll put one towards the front, one in the middle, and then I'll go toward the back. And then I'll say, what was the most important part of whatever it might be. Same thing. You put your answers, you can make it true, false, or multiple choice. But as I think I mentioned, we are working on short answer and long response, along with customizable feedback, multiple attempts, and then you as being able to use it more of like a poll fashion. Can you make a survey or opinion question? So not yet, Chris. That will be coming shortly, where you can then pose for a discussion topic and then be able to export to then make that more of a discussion board. But long response and short answer are coming soon. And so then once I have both of those, I can then pull out my list view and see which questions I've put. If I screwed up and I left it at the wrong second, I'm just going to click edit. I'm going to change it to 14 seconds and click save. And then it automatically slid that question to the correct second marker. When I click share, same deal as my video. I click copy watch page. And in this case, we can throw it right there. But I want to highlight 2 things within the questions. Students can't fast forward. We oftentimes get that, like they have to answer the question before they can move on. So like if I put 5 questions in there, they can't just skip to the end. They have to answer the questions. Now, I can fast forward in between segments, like up to it and then answer it. But like philosophically, that's up to you and your team. If a student already knows the content, should they have to watch the video? That's up to you all to decide. But when they answer the question, they'll click submit. Whoops, I got it wrong. And then they'll jump to the next one. And then, whoops, got that one wrong too. But the reason why I highlight the second part is because in the responses, now I have data immediately for those students on those questions. This little blue check mark knows if your student answered all of them. So if I only answered one of these questions, I would not have this blue check mark. So in an ideal world, you go to at minimum, you go to responses and you see all blue check marks. If anybody is missing a blue check mark, you know that they at least did not answer one or more of the questions that you put into your video. So it just, again, helps you, I think, understand and be informed more about what teachers are actually watching. Excuse me, what students are actually watching. And so then the last component, I know that this is going to be kind of very quickly included, but Screencastify Submit is a video submission tool. If you ever wanted your students to submit videos back to you, 3 lines and click submit. So for world language teachers is probably one of the better examples. When you do speaking assessments in class, how does that go logistically? Teacher goes in the hallway or a different part of the room, they pull 1 student at a time. When they're actually doing the speaking assessment with that 1 student, what are the other 29 students doing? They're working independently, they're reading, they're, who knows? That process can be made so much easier by using Screencastify Submit. I click on new topic. I want my students to see their face, and I'm then going to have them go through a PDF. And then I can put my instructional video link here. And then I can be very, very specific with my instructions. And then I click next. Who can access these videos? If you ever have your students that chunk out content and then end up doing a project together and you want them to use the editor to work on a combined project, have the link access be anyone with the link, and then users can view all videos. Now, if this is a speaking assessment, we're going to keep it that they cannot view any videos because we want that privacy purpose because it's an assessment. I don't want to get an email notification when 120 students are submitting things one-to-one, so I will keep my email notifications off. And then I'll click next. And just like that, I now have a video assignment that I can put in a hyperlink, send it out to my students. They will then read the assignment title, they'll read the directions, and then when they click record, it's going to automatically prompt them so it's, I clicked the wrong one, it's doing it on my other monitor. But when you click on that record button, it will then prompt the student to record. They will do the recording, and then when they click finish, the actual assignment itself is already created in Google Drive. So I now automatically have an assignment underneath Google Drive for Screencastify Submit where these videos will come into. So this process, I know there's a little bit abbreviated of an explanation, but if you ever want your students to know how they're feeling, if you are a counselor and have students that are sharing how their week goes, or if you are a speech path and you want students to show speaking goals, math or band teachers with practice minutes at home, chorus and orchestra, same thing. There are countless ways in which you can utilize Screencastify Submit for students to submit things back to you. If you are a person creating the happy retirement video for a person, send it out to your staff, they submit a video back to you. And then I go to my editor. And in the same way, I can go to Drive. And then if I had a folder that was so-and-so's retirement, I would just click on the folder, I would mass select all the videos, and then I would select, and then it would put all the videos instantly in my editor, and I could export and make that happy retirement video. So